He was the so-called peacekeeper of the West, the community activist with ties to hip-hop royalty and Hollywood elites. But behind the scenes, Eugene Big U Henley was allegedly running an empire built on fear, extortion, and murder. Now, with leaked wiretaps, sealed indictments, and court whispers of a looming RICO case, the mask is slipping. From Snoop Dogg to Nipsey Hussle, from the LAPD to the underworld, this is the untold story of how Big U went from gang leader to industry power broker, and how it all might come crashing down. Born into the chaos of 1980s Los Angeles, Eugene Henley rose through the ranks of the Rollin' 60s Crips. But it wasn't just street violence. By the early 2000s, Big U was more than a gang member. He was a fixer. Mr. Henley poses a continued threat to public safety due to sustained leadership and influence over a known criminal enterprise. Court transcript, 2004 parole hearing. Did 13 years in prison. When he came out, he rebranded as a youth mentor, a music consultant, a gatekeeper. But the streets knew Big U never really left. Big U's Unity One Foundation claimed to help curb gang violence. But behind the curtain, artists signed under his influence began appearing on the charts. And in courtrooms. He helped launch careers. But some artists say it came with a price. You couldn't get studio time without checking in with Big U. And if you didn't cut him in, things got complicated. Anonymous rapper, voice altered, wiretap, March 2017, male voice. 1. He trying to go solo, but he know better. Big U ain't gonna let that slide. Male voice 2. Then we make an example. Simple. It was bigger than the music. It was about control, of territory, of influence, of culture itself. In 2019, the murder of Nipsey Hussle shocked the world, but inside LA, whispers began to spread. Some blamed Eric Holder, others looked higher up. We lost a brother, a real one. Big U in a post-Nipsey interview, but leaked messages between Whack 100 and Big U revealed a darker narrative. Allegations of betrayal, silence for cash deals, and posthumous control of Nipsey's legacy. DM screenshot, Whack 100. That man was trying to get free. You knew it. Big U. You talk too much. Even Whack 100, known for defending the worst, began backing away. The streets started talking, and federal eyes were already watching. In late 2023, an LAPD FBI task force intercepted a series of calls between known Rollin' 60s affiliates, referencing shipments, extortions, and the boss, wiretap, Deck 2023. Male voice 1. Big U said drop the bag by Sunday. If not, we burn it all. Male voice 2. He got Hollywood behind him. Ain't nobody touching that man. But then came the surprise. A former associate turned federal witness, allegedly willing to name Big U as the orchestrator of multiple illicit operations spanning nearly a decade. Sealed court testimony. The organization functioned like a business. Eugene Henley was the CEO. Street taxes, music cuts, laundering through events, it all passed through him. If the feds can verify these claims, a RICO indictment is only a matter of time. Big U didn't just move in the streets, he moved in boardrooms. Netflix, Universal, even Kanye's Donda Academy reportedly hired him for community outreach. But insiders claim it was more like insurance. If your artist was shooting in South Central, you needed Big U's blessing. Otherwise, well, look at what happened to other unauthorized productions. LAPD Incident Report, 2022. Set disruption due to gang presence. Possible extortion attempt. Victim refused to press charges. As of early 2025, federal prosecutors are reportedly reviewing sealed wiretap evidence, decrypted signal messages, and digital ledgers tied to Big U's nonprofit accounts. Redacted. DOJ brief. Henley et al. Vs. United States. RICO cases are rarely swift, but once the dominoes fall, they don't stop. They don't come for you unless they already have you. If Big U is indicted, it will be one of the biggest takedowns of a gang political industrial figure in West Coast history. Legal expert from the streets of Crenshaw to the glitz of Beverly Hills, Eugene Henley walked a tightrope between two worlds. But no one escapes forever. And as the files stack up, it's no longer a question of if, but when. This is the story they didn't want you to hear. The empire of Big U and the walls closing in. Why would I let him know like they didn't really officially arrest him yet? They haven't arrested him, but I'm telling you, you might be responsible for this and that without actually bringing him in. This commentary highlights an unusual aspect of the case: the public nature of the investigation and the explicit warnings from law enforcement before formal charges have been filed. This could potentially work in Lil Baby's favor by giving his team time to prepare, but it also signals the authorities' determination to pursue the case. Beyond the courtroom, Lil Baby's team appears to be managing the broader implications of these allegations for his career and business interests. 1434. Unlike his previous encounters with the legal system, including a 2019 arrest for reckless driving, a 2021 detention in France for drug possession, and a 2024 Las Vegas arrest for carrying a concealed weapon without a permit, potential RICO charges would represent an existential threat, not just to his career, but to his freedom. The personal impact of such charges would be profound if Lil Baby were to face a fate similar to Young Thug in the ongoing YSL RICO case. Do 2. He could potentially spend years in pretrial detention, separated from his family and unable to perform or record music. For an artist at the peak of his commercial powers with young children at home, this would be devastating on multiple levels. As one commentator observed about the serious nature of these allegations, there were wiretaps being played, and in one of them, someone mentioned that Lil Baby had a bounty on some people's heads. If they know what the ops did to you, they know what you did to the ops. That's the code of the streets, people, so don't ever celebrate your ops getting a recall. That just means they're coming for you. If we look at the receipts for Trevante Turner and the police report when he passed away, it listed 4PF as a criminal street gang, which claimed the Oakland City neighborhood of Atlanta. This commentary highlights how authorities are building a case piece by piece, gradually establishing 4PF as a criminal gang rather than just a music label. This characterization is crucial for RICO purposes and represents a direct threat to Lil Baby's freedom. The mention of Trevante Turner is significant, as his death on June 29, 2024, allegedly at the hands of 4PF associates, represents a key link in the chain of events that authorities are constructing. According to their timeline, this killing was retaliation for the shooting at Lil Baby's video shoot, which was followed by the Goodfellas retaliation that killed the two 13-year-old boys. 1653. What makes this case particularly complex is that authorities appear to be targeting Lil Baby not just for direct actions, but for his role as the alleged leader of 4PF. As one analyst explained, "I hope you rappers are listening. This is such an eye-opener. If you have a homie and your homie gets killed and his homies get involved in a gang war, you're automatically involved too because he was in your entourage. Even though you have nothing to do with whatever personal beef he has. If he's repping 4PF, you're now involved, and they'll include you as the gang lead." This commentary highlights the dangerous position Lil Baby occupies as the founder and public face of 4PF. Even if he hasn't personally ordered hits or engaged in violence under RICO, he could potentially be held responsible for actions committed by others under the 4PF banner. Murder for hire allegations represent a particularly serious category of accusations that could trigger morality clauses in contracts and cause corporate partners to distance themselves. Moreover, if Lil Baby were to be held without bail, like Young Thug, his ability to release music and maintain his public presence would be severely constrained. Several people from the Atlanta music scene, including Whack 100, have weighed in on the situation, defending Lil Baby. Whack 100 expressed that they're attacking everybody in hip-hop as if they're doing it for a negative reason. This sentiment reflects a view shared by many in the industry. Law enforcement may be targeting successful rappers partly because of their visibility and influence rather than based solely on evidence of criminal activity. Other commentators have offered more direct advice about how rappers should navigate these dangers. They think that if they don't do this, they're lame. If they don't do this, they're not real street. If they don't do this, they won't be accepted in the hood. And then they go to jail, and they think going to jail is a badge of honor because they wore it like it's a god. This analysis cuts to the heart of the cultural contradictions that artists like Lil Baby navigate, the pressure to maintain street credibility while building legitimate business success. In the world of hip-hop, the line between street life and stardom is thin, but when you're caught in the crossfire, the consequences can be devastating. As Lil Baby finds himself entangled in the sprawling web of criminal investigations, the question arises: can he fight his way out, or is his future already sealed? Industry insiders have been quick to point out that Lil Baby's next move is one of survival, not just of his career, but of his freedom. If RICO charges are coming, the stakes are higher than they've ever been. Industry observer. If Lil Baby's in this, he's fighting for more than his career, he's fighting for his life. The game's over for him if he's the one snitching. The streets don't forgive that. If he's involved, it's done. Narrator. A stark warning from the streets, but for many, the idea of fleeing the country, as extreme as it sounds, isn't so far-fetched. When the law comes knocking, especially with a RICO indictment on the horizon, your options get incredibly limited. Rapper. Yo, if I were him, I'd take a flight to Africa, disappear, and let the heat die down. Ain't no extradition there. They can't touch you. Narrator. While this drastic idea of escape might not be part of Lil Baby's actual strategy, it speaks to the grim reality of what a RICO case means. A full indictment can leave you with few options, either fight the case or disappear. But in this case, no one can overlook the human tragedy at the heart of the charges. This story isn't just about music, fame, or money. It's about real lives lost. The deaths of two 13-year-olds, Layman Freeman and Jackety Davis, and the ongoing pain of their families. These are not just numbers in a case file, they're young lives cut short, and whatever Lil Baby's fate may be, those families will never recover. Narrator. Lil Baby's case isn't just about his career anymore, it's about the broken lives left behind in the wake of violence. As his legal team scrambles to mount a defense, he has to walk a fine line, asserting his innocence while acknowledging the gravity of the situation. News reporter. Atlanta police are investigating a homicide that occurred overnight near Lakewood Avenue. The victim, identified as 27-year-old Keontae Davis, was taken to the hospital and later died from his injuries. Narrator. Keontae Davis's death, while tragic, has an unsettling connection to the case. He had previously testified against an associate of 4PF in another murder trial. His death raises disturbing questions about the motives behind his killing, adding even more weight to Lil Baby's already complicated legal position. The timing couldn't be more suspect. Just as authorities ramp up their investigation, Davis is killed, and now everyone is asking, was this murder a warning, a message, or something more? Narrator. And then there's the looming presence of the Georgia Public Defender's Council. Rumors are swirling about an imminent RICO indictment targeting 4PF, and Lil Baby may be a central figure in that charge. Public defenders are already preparing for the legal battle of a lifetime. Public defender. We're ready for what's coming. The RICO case is inevitable. Lil Baby is going to be right in the middle of it. Narrator. Authorities have been preparing their case for months, and it's clear an indictment against 4PF and possibly Lil Baby is likely. But the bigger question remains, how deep does this rabbit hole go? Legal expert. This pattern of targeting successful rappers with RICO charges is becoming all too familiar, especially in Atlanta. The real question is whether these charges are rooted in solid evidence or whether Lil Baby's fame and influence are driving this aggressive legal push. Narrator. The next few months will define Lil Baby's career and possibly his freedom. His defense strategy will be tested, and the outcome could set a precedent for how the music industry handles legal risks. How do you fight charges when your whole life is built on the very elements they're accusing you of? Rapper. Man, every time I wake up, it's like a new bombshell drops. This is gonna be huge. Lil Baby might be facing a RICO charge within 90 days. If that happens, it's game over. You don't come back from that. Narrator. The clock is ticking and the pressure is mounting. With every new piece of evidence, the case against Lil Baby becomes harder to ignore. His silence in the wake of wiretap revelations speaks volumes. The stakes are higher now, and every move he makes could either clear his name or seal his fate. Narrator. For Lil Baby, this is no longer just about dodging bullets. It's about staying free. It's about preserving his career and his life, all while navigating a storm that could tear it all apart. Narrator. In a world where every move is watched, every tweet dissected, and every statement scrutinized, Lil Baby faces his toughest battle yet. And the question on everyone's mind is, will he rise above, or will this be the end of the road? The investigation into Lil Baby and his label 4PF has caught the attention of both the public and law enforcement in a way few could have anticipated. While the rapper has yet to face formal charges, authorities are already building a case against him. What's more troubling is the way this case is unfolding in public, with explicit warnings from law enforcement, giving Lil Baby's team time to prepare, but also signaling the seriousness of the investigation. It's a game of high stakes, and every move counts. While he hasn't been arrested yet, the warnings themselves are a sign that the authorities are ready to make their move. This unusual approach of giving advance notice could be beneficial for Lil Baby in the short term, but in the long run, it may end up being a double-edged sword, offering both a chance to prepare and an undeniable signal that this case is far from over. Lil Baby's legal issues have been on the radar for a while, but potential RICO charges would represent a significant escalation. The rapper, who has previously faced minor legal trouble, now finds himself in the crosshairs of an investigation that could cost him more than just his career. It could cost him his freedom. The nature of these allegations could lead to years of pretrial detention if convicted, similar to the ongoing case with Young Thug and his label YSL. For an artist like Lil Baby, who is at the peak of his career and has young children to care for, the consequences of such a legal battle could be devastating. The authorities' case against him isn't just about his actions. They're aiming to tie him directly to the gang activities tied to 4PF. The death of Trevante Turner, allegedly at the hands of 4PF associates, plays a crucial role in building the timeline of events that could ultimately be used to link Lil Baby to a string of violent actions, regardless of whether or not he was personally involved in them. What makes this case so complicated is the fact that authorities are targeting Lil Baby for his role as the leader of 4PF. Even if he didn't directly participate in criminal acts, his position as a leader in the organization could tie him to the actions of others under the RICO Act. RICO charges often lead to accusations of orchestrating crimes without being directly involved in them. It's a broad net. And for Lil Baby, it could mean being held responsible for violent acts carried out by associates within his entourage, even if he didn't give the orders. In the eyes of the law, being the figurehead of 4PF could be enough to hold him accountable for the actions of others. Whether it's dealing with murder-for-hire allegations, potential wiretap evidence, or accusations of gang war involvement, the risk of facing life-altering consequences is looming large for the rapper. This has caught the attention of figures within the hip-hop community, including Whack 100, who recently came to Lil Baby's defense on a podcast. His comments reflect the frustration many in the industry feel about the treatment of successful rappers. It's a narrative that paints a picture of law enforcement using visibility and influence against them, regardless of their actual criminal involvement. But amidst all the pressure, there's one truth that's undeniable. Lil Baby's legal battle could change the course of his career. If these charges stick, his career could come to a screeching halt. No more tours, no more music releases, and potentially years behind bars. While some in the hip-hop community see this as an attack on all rappers, others are more pragmatic. The cultural pressures rappers face, the need to maintain street credibility, and the desire to avoid being seen as soft could be a double-edged sword for Lil Baby. These pressures have led some of his peers to downplay the consequences of criminal charges, with many thinking that spending time behind bars is somehow a badge of honor. But the reality for Lil Baby and others like him is much more serious. Jail time isn't a victory, it's a life-altering event. For someone with so much to lose, the fight isn't just about clearing his name in court. It's about navigating the complex web of fame, business, and street politics that has led him to this point. To survive this battle, Lil Baby and his team will need to pull out all the stops. They'll need a multifaceted strategy, one that includes aggressive legal tactics, solid business maneuvers, and a well-calculated public relations approach. It's a battle of survival, and the outcome remains uncertain. As the legal and public scrutiny intensifies, Lil Baby's team will be forced to think long-term. They must navigate the challenges of this potential case and prepare for the worst while holding onto the momentum of his career. The world is watching, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The legal situation surrounding Lil Baby has only intensified as authorities continue to build their case against him. One key aspect of the prosecution's strategy is the interpretation of slang used in wiretap recordings. For example, the term tickets has been interpreted by investigator Vivarito as referring to bounties or prices on people's heads, but the defense is poised to challenge this interpretation. They argue that these slang terms are being misunderstood or taken out of context. It's not the first time that defense teams have pushed back against law enforcement's interpretation of street language. What exactly are tickets? Do they truly represent a price on someone's head? The question here is whether the meaning of certain words can be manipulated by investigators to fit their narrative, or whether they are being used in a way that's typical in hip-hop culture, but not necessarily tied to criminal activity. This tactic has been employed before in high-profile cases, particularly those involving rappers. Defense teams often argue that law enforcement is using language that has cultural significance within the community, but is being misinterpreted as evidence of criminal behavior. This tactic has met with mixed results, but it's an approach that the defense will likely use in Lil Baby's case as well. A crucial element of Lil Baby's potential defense could revolve around his complicated relationship with Keontae Sanders. Sanders, a gang member allegedly involved in extorting Lil Baby for $5 million, could provide a strong motive for spreading false or exaggerated claims about the rapper. The fact that Sanders was incarcerated when these calls were recorded may serve to strengthen the defense's argument. With little to lose, Sanders could have fabricated stories to further his extortion scheme, which could provide significant leverage in Lil Baby's favor. The defense will also challenge how authorities are characterizing 4PF, Lil Baby's label. Prosecutors are attempting to paint the organization as a criminal gang, but Lil Baby's team will likely argue that 4PF is simply a legitimate music label, a business, not a criminal enterprise. This distinction is especially important when it comes to a potential RICO charge, which requires proving that an organization is a criminal entity. In this context, it's worth considering the ongoing legal battle of Young Thug, whose legal team has had some success in challenging the gang characterization of his label YSL. Lil Baby's team may attempt to follow a similar strategy, especially after Lil Baby rebranded 4PF as Glass Window Entertainment in December 2024. This move could be key in distancing himself from the label's gang associations, painting the organization as a professional business rather than a criminal group. The rebranding of 4PF could also help create a legal buffer between Lil Baby and the accusations of criminal activity. The name change reflects an effort to evolve and legitimize the label, which could have serious implications for the case. The defense will likely emphasize this shift in strategy to show that Lil Baby has distanced himself from any criminal ties associated with 4PF. Beyond the legal technicalities, Lil Baby's public image could serve as a significant counterpoint to the prosecution's narrative. Known for his philanthropic efforts and community work in Atlanta, he has worked to uplift his hometown. His visit to the White House in 2021 to discuss criminal justice reform and his business investments in his community paint a vastly different picture from the one the prosecution is trying to portray. Lil Baby's defense team will likely lean heavily into his positive public image, using it as a key part of both his legal strategy and public relations approach. In a case like this, where public perception can influence the outcome, these efforts could play a crucial role. Comparing Lil Baby's case to Young Thug's ongoing RICO trial provides insight into how this situation could evolve. Despite Young Thug's lengthy pretrial detention, his legal team has managed to slow the case down through procedural challenges. While this has created obstacles for the prosecution, Lil Baby's situation presents its own set of challenges. Authorities are preparing for a major indictment, and public defenders handling gang cases have already started allocating resources to handle the 4PF investigation, which could signal that formal charges are imminent. The public nature of this investigation, with law enforcement making clear that Lil Baby may soon face charges, is an unusual aspect of the case. On one hand, this gives his team time to prepare. On the other hand, it shows the determination of the authorities to pursue the case. Lil Baby's legal team must now manage the broader impact of these allegations on his career and public image.